Welcome to Epic Begins with One Step Forward, the podcast that reveals how to plan, achieve, and enjoy the journey of creating epic results in your life, business, health, and relationships. Here's your host, best-selling author and motivational speaker, Xander Sprague.
Hello, epic people, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Epic Begins with One Step Forward. I'm your host, Xander Sprague, and today I am so honored to be joined by Carlo Taormina, and he is a high-performance coach, keynote speaker. And Carlo, tell us who you are and what you do.
Of course. Well, thank you for having me on, Xander. I really appreciate you, brother. I am, like you said, I am a life coach, a high-performance coach, and a keynote speaker. And I help professional individuals overcome that self-doubt, those limiting beliefs, and help them overcome that to find renewed purpose and perform at the highest level.
Awesome. Yeah, I can totally relate to that because that's kind of what I'm doing too, is trying to help people really step into their epic and stuff. And, I like to start off, I want people to get to know you a little. How did you get here?
Yeah, that's a fun little journey, isn't it?
It is.
Well, I've never really thought in my life I would ever be a high performance coach, a keynote speaker. I never in a million years thought that would be like the route I would take. And it's kind of funny because I came to this position by divine timing, by depression, and it's quite the story. So I remember ever since I was a kid, I've always been really ambitious. I've always been somebody who wanted to reach for the stars and make my mark in the world, And I just never knew exactly what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to help people. But, my imagination just went everywhere. And where my journey really started was towards the end of 2020. This was probably a week before Christmas, right before my birthday. And this is what I like to call my hell week, where anything that could go wrong did go wrong within this 1 week. And it really shook me. Yeah. So what happened in this week was, at the time, because I've always been a lover of fitness. Fitness has always been part of me since I was a teenager. So at the time, I was this manager of a gym. And I also had my side business, and I'll mention that a little bit later. But I was managing this gym. At the time, my boss lets me go. He fires me. And I was like, wow, okay, that was cool. And then that same week, I actually dealt with a really bad back injury. I had a herniated disc in my L5S1, and it was so excruciatingly painful. I actually couldn't walk for a period of time. So the last thing you want is to be laying in bed, not being able to move and be trapped in your thoughts. And then to add insult to injury, is at the time I was seeing this young lady who I was madly in love with. She was telling me, we're going to get married, we're going to have kids, we're going to do all the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And one day she calls me, she was like, yeah, I want to break up. I was like, okay, wasn't expecting that, but all right. And then to increase the pain a little bit more for me is I was a online personal trainer. I was an entrepreneur. I had my own online personal training business. Mm-hmm. And at the time, it was just failing miserably. I was spending more money than I was making. I didn't know what to do. And then in this week, I kind of just took a step back and looked at my life at the big picture. And I was like, what just happened? Like, what did I do to deserve this? What is so wrong with me? Mm-hmm. What did I do? And that was the moment in my life where I just said, I give up. Mm-hmm. And originally that was my superpower, was like, I'm not a quitter. I'm a go-getter. I'm going to do this. But that's where I just fell to my knees and I was like, I can't do this anymore. What's the point of trying to be somebody if no matter what I do, I always fail? And no matter what I touch turns to dust. And I became terribly depressed. It was very bad. I even became suicidal. Mm-hmm. And I laid in bed every day for a year. So for pretty much 2021 was like a non-existent year for me. And it was just, It was an interesting experience, but I'm so glad it happened because it made me the man I am today.
Sure, definitely. And just to add onto that, I too have that hell week. It was July of 1999. In a 7-day period, got fired from my job. My car got totaled, and my then fiance broke up with me. That was a 7-day period. I'm like, holy crap, right? We can both agree that's a bad week.
Yeah.
So, but it opened up all of this greatness for me because I'm originally from Boston, went to college in Southern California, lived in San Francisco for a couple years after college, went back to Boston, but I really knew my heart was in San Francisco, and I'd visit my friends. All of my close friends from college and my best friend for my whole life lived in San Francisco, and I was just always felt like I was yearning to get back. But I had put all these roadblocks in front of myself as to why I couldn't move back. And life came in and took all the roadblocks out. And I said, you know what? I'm moving back to San Francisco, which I did 6 years and 3 hours to the day that I left. Oh yeah, I'm a history major, so I have a freakish memory for dates and times. And 8 days later, I set myself up on a blind date, and I was married to that woman for 18 years. So all in all, not bad to make that decision and take that hell week and see it as an opportunity. And it's really, it's what I encourage people to do. Is there are detours, there are roadblocks that come in front, but I think oftentimes, and maybe you want to speak on this, um, I like to say our roadblocks are a mirage. Oftentimes the things, those limiting beliefs that we have, those thoughts, are actually, they don't actually exist. They're a mirage. We put them in front of ourselves. I can't do this because of this, but it doesn't actually, it's not actually a reason why you can't get it done.
Absolutely. And I love that saying. It's kind of funny because I actually used the exact phrase yesterday with one of my clients during a coaching call. I was like, this is just a mirage. It's like you're in the desert and you're seeing something that's not there.
Yeah.
And I love the way you said that, because that was really a part of why I was really depressed, is because I had these limiting beliefs about myself. I told myself that I was a loser, I was a failure, I
Yeah.
can't achieve anything, I'm not good enough to do X, Y, Z, build a business, be attractive, get married, any of that stuff.
Sure.
And what I realized is that when I got out of my own way
Hmm.
and wrote my story, that's where my life started to change. And I understood that my limiting belief was just a story. And then I
Hmm.
started to kind of dive deeper into what that psychology would look like. And I understood that a belief is only a story we keep telling ourselves with enough emotional attachment attached to it. And
Sure.
that's why we believe it so hard, is because we're so attached to it. It's like symbiotic. Once I let go of that attachment and realized that I wasn't all those negative things I said about myself, and I rewrote my story and understood that I was successful, I am confident, I am attractive, I am smart, all that stuff, it really opened all these doors for me. And that, again, that's what like led me down that road, down that yellow brick road, to becoming the coach I am, the speaker I am. And it's been the biggest blessing in my life.
Absolutely. And another thing that I talk about all the time with my clients, and I just talk about on my podcast, is, and I'm not sure why, I'm curious about this and would love your thoughts on it, which is why the meanest person in our life is ourselves. You know, we say on a daily basis, we are so mean to ourselves. We say so many horrible things, and I try and challenge people when I'm working with them, and I hear that and I go, what if your best friend said just one of those things to you? How would you feel? And oftentimes, oh my God, I'd be so devastated. I'm like, yeah, so why are you saying it to yourself? Right? I mean, don't be the meanest person in your life.
Absolutely. And that's so impactful. And a part of me thinks why we do that is because our brains, and I don't know if this is a direct correlation to what we're talking about here, but I just got inspired when you said that, is that we're so hard on ourselves, regardless if it's negative self talk or the quote unquote limiting beliefs that we have about ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
is because our brains want us to survive. That's the main job of our brain. It's not meant to make
Sure.
us. So when we have these conversations with ourselves, it's not like our brain's doing it on purpose to hurt us, but it's in its weird sadistic way is trying to protect us, even though it seems really nasty, because it's something that's so alien to us. It's something that says, oh, you can't do it, just, you don't want to go to the gym today, stay at home, right? You don't want to start this business, you're going to fail, you're going to be embarrassed, you're going to be a loser, don't do anything, keep your job. And when your brain is exposed to something that's so alien, like being kind to yourself, giving yourself the permission to start a business, to move across the country, go to San Francisco.
Yeah.
And when you allow yourself the permission to say, okay, brain, you're not meant to make me happy, you're trying to keep me safe, thank you, but that's not true.
Right.
I think we can make the distinction between the two. That's going to free a lot of people up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I write about it in my book, about how first of all, failure is part of the journey. We are not going to do, I'm not going to run my business without making mistakes. I hope they're not too big.
Yeah.
I see them as opportunities to learn how not to do it. That's not the way to do it. And there's, there are all kinds of wonderful stories. I remember reading in Chicken Soup for the Soul, and there was like sort of this laundry list of failure, right? And it talked about how, started a business, went bankrupt, wife died in childbirth, ran for Congress, lost, ran for Congress, won, all of this huge laundry list. When you get to the end of it, it says 1860, elected president of the United States. And they're talking about Abraham Lincoln, who, not to be political at all, but just is generally considered one of our better presidents, right? And I'm like, imagine if he gave up.
Yeah.
You and I are sitting here, we got light bulbs going on. What if Thomas Edison gave up, right? I mean, and what if either you or I just said, oh, forget it, it's not going to work. And yes, there does come a point where you have to say, all right, this really isn't, this isn't work, that whatever I'm doing isn't working for me. Be it, you're trying to exercise in something and you just keep getting hurt. Well, maybe that's not the exercise for your body. You can't, you can't squat 400 pounds no matter how much you want. You're like, I keep tearing, my quad. Maybe I should look for something different, right? There
Absolutely.
is that time, but there's also, it's hard. You're right. And it is a self-preservation, right? We psychologically, I think, are like, we like the known. We like routine. We are creatures of habit. We like structure. We feel very comfortable with structure. And so when we push ourselves to step out, it is scary. It is the unknown. It is really, really scary.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the amazing things that happen when you sort of say, shut up, brain, I'm going. What's funny is I ride road bikes and I love it. And it's probably not going to shut up legs, right? Not my quote. That was something that someone in the Tour de France said years ago. And they're like, oh, how did you, climb this mountain or whatever? And he's like, I just said, shut up legs, like even though they were killing, I just told them to shut up. I'm going. So yeah, you're exactly right that we do get caught up in what's comfortable. And there's not that it's wrong, but we do have to pay attention of when we're just too comfortable, right?
Absolutely.
Exercise is important to me. I haven't been doing as much of it lately as I'd like to. I got no excuse. It's me. The bed is comfortable. The time change, it's dark again. It's really hard to go, all right, I'm going to get up and exercise, but it's amazing what we can do.
100%. And I think, again, once we get out of our own way, once we change the patterns that we currently engage in that are not serving us, and we replace it with positive patterns, then I think that's, again, when a lot of doors are going to open up. Because something I learned through my own personal development journey was the patterns we engage in can dictate the quality of our lives. So if we just simply use a little bit of self-awareness and look at what we do on a regular basis, especially in times of discomfort, times of uncomfortability, times of, well, that's the same thing, but times of unfavorable outcomes, time of stress, anger, depression, whatever the case may be, and you look at your behavior as a reaction, you're going to see a pattern. So for example, for me, when I was really, really depressed, I didn't want to think and I wasn't sleeping. I would either watch TV or scroll through social media. And anytime I got triggered by a thought or an action, I would just do that repeatedly. Play a video game or something like that, just get my mind off of it. But I understood that was a negative pattern I was doing because I wasn't necessarily solving anything. I was prolonging it, but I was numbing the pain, if that makes sense.
Right.
So once I realized that once I changed my pattern process and did something that actually served me, it put me on a completely different path.
So here's the question. What do you, when you're working with people as a high performance coach or a life coach, what really kind of floats your boat, gets you excited about the work that you're doing?
What the biggest thing for me is the most fulfilling is seeing their eyes light up when they see a transformational moment where they find a breakthrough, because it is literally like looking at me through a screen. It's like seeing seeing the transformation I went through when I found that light bulb moment. And
Mhm.
I told myself, oh my gosh, I don't want to leave anymore. I want to live. I have so much to do. I know what I'm going to do. I found my purpose. And seeing it through the eyes of another, it is the most fulfilling thing ever. And it was so beautiful is that I remember I had this one client. We had one call. And literally after this one call, he was like, Carlo, I'm not depressed anymore. Like, I feel good. Like, I know what I want. After one call, I was like, oh my God, like that's the best thing that could possibly happen in this situation. And I'll say that's probably my favorite thing.
Yeah. Well, now have you had this experience where you're helping someone out and you've thought about it and you thought, all right, I'm going to step them through and get them to this aha moment. And as you're building them up, they have the aha about one or two steps before you thought that you would, where the aha would happen. All of a sudden they're like, oh my God, that's great. And then you're like, yay for you, but no, I had more. There was, you're missing. No, I call that sort of that coaching frustration of like, but I had thought through this and I was going to lead you here and I'm happy that you got there, but I had two more steps for you.
It's kind of funny you say that because that's literally what happened with that client. Because
It sounded like it. Yeah.
we had a strategy call, we understood what his problem was, and then he came on board. And then after that first call, that's where he found that light bulb. And it wasn't a disappointment to me actually. It was something so amazing because I was like, oh, you don't even know what's coming next. It was
Yeah.
like, a kid on his birthday. He sees a surprise party, he sees all his friends, but he doesn't know what present I got him. He doesn't know what kind of cake I got him. And then
Mhm.
once he sees all that and he's exposed to it, it's literally the best thing that could have happened.
Definitely. So here's a little challenge for you. I want to get
Yeah.
put on your thinking cap. So for me, one of the two most powerful words, and I love this, are not yet. There's so much optimism. Have you finished your book? Not yet. Have you run your marathon? Not yet. Have you gotten your degree? Not yet. That sort of, and I think so often someone says, are you a success in your business? No. Such a hard stop. So here's my question for you. What are some of your not yets? And do you have one that in the next 6 months you want to try and make a yet?
Yeah, so I set a goal for myself this year, and I actually wrote it down. I gotta find where I wrote it down. But I had this goal that said I wanted to impact 100,000 lives this year
Okay.
through my keynotes, through coaching, through my social media posts, anything like that. But I wanted the confirmation that I helped 100,000, and that is my not yet. It's something that I'm definitely working towards, and I'm seeing success in. And the numbers growing every single day.
Sure.
It's there. It's not yet.
And again, I love not yet because it there are the things that they take time, right? If you asked a freshman in college, do you have your college degree? Not yet. Doesn't mean they're not going to get it. They just have a path that they have a journey that they have to go down. I know in my own life there are the not yets. There are the things that I say not yet and I may never get to it, but I still hold up hope that I may achieve that sometime. It's
I love
still
it. It's
there.
faith. It's a possibility. It's not saying, "Oh, I'm not going to get there." And I love
Right.
that.
I mean, the no is such a hard, makes it sound like it's never going to happen, right? But there are the things that you're like, no, that's taking time. For you to reach 100,000 people, that's going to take some time.
Yeah.
So here's what's going to happen. In about 6 months, I'm going to check back in with you and see where you are with this.
All right. Okay.
And it's going to be part of a ongoing project I have with my podcast where I have just quick updates with my guests and see how is there not yet still a not yet, or is it I did it, So
Oh, I love that, man. I love that. Yeah. Game on.
yeah. So you'll be hearing from me again, and Carlo, you'll be back on for just a quick like, hey, how's it going? What went right? What hasn't gone so right? And that's great. So we just got a few more minutes. I want to let you tell me something. I'm asking all the questions. I'm jabbering on. Tell me something that you'd like my audience to know about you, about the work you do, maybe just some inspiring thought for them.
Absolutely. I definitely have a couple of nuggets here. Is one thing that I really understood that helped me, and this was definitely like the first thing, the moment where I got a light bulb, is I understood no matter where you are in your life, right? So for me, I was really depressed, suicidal, and I knew I was meant for more in my life. And a lot of us, we have these I know I should do this. I know I should work out. I know I should build a business. I know I should find a better career. I know I should be a better leader for my business, my family. But yeah, we don't do these things.
Mm-hmm.
And what really impacted me was understanding that I was not in the right state to accept any information that I knew would serve me. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
kept me in my state longer back in
Mm-hmm.
2021. And if everyone who's listening looks back at their own lives and starts reflecting, and they're going to realize that my state is the exact reason why I'm not where I want to be. And what I mean
Mm-hmm.
by state is by your physical body, right? So you mentioned a perfect example when you hit snooze on the alarm and not going to the gym. And it's like, oh, the bed's cozy. It's a little dark outside. I'm gonna stay in bed.
Yeah.
What I realized is that I became the best version of myself through movement. So what I like to do is I like to do what's called getting into a peak state. Is just moving my body at a rapid pace for a little bit, a couple of minutes,
Mm-hmm.
to literally change my physiology, change my body language. Because what that did for me is that it did two things. One, it put me in a state to make better decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And two, it literally reduced all those symptoms of anger, sadness, depression, whatever the case may be. So anyone who's listening who always feels that, those negative feelings, the biggest thing that helped me was changing my state. And when I did, that's where I started learning and absorbing all the information that was given to me by my therapist at the time, by my family. And I realized that was the missing link. And then everything else was peachy king. I found myself, my purpose, and all that good stuff. And that's what I help people do, is change their state. I help them overcome those feelings of being worthless, that hopeless feeling, having a lot of self-doubt, limiting belief. And they know they're meant for more, whether it be in their own personal life or in their business. I help them transform their mindset to perform at the highest level. And what I love doing, and I would love to do this if I may, if anyone received value from this podcast episode, which I really hope you did, I would really love to help. And if this is not allowed, please tell me, Xander. But I wanted to offer a free consultation call to anyone listening who wants to dive deeper and wants to improve themselves.
Absolutely. I'm all about supporting other entrepreneurs, and there are so many people who want help but just don't know where to go, right? And that's the most frustrating thing. Is I know, as I help people, is I know there are lots of people who want to take that epic first step. They want to go on the journey. They just don't know how, and they need someone, a coach, to help them along and say, it's possible.
Absolutely.
And stuff. Now, I want to leave you with this thought, actually two thoughts. First of all, I have what I call the 97-3 rule, which is that 97% of our day is good and up to 3% isn't so good. And certainly there are the days where that 3% is a little bigger. But in general, most of our day goes really well.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow that limiting belief is, let me focus on that 3% that didn't go well. And the way that I like to talk about this is when I was doing my internship for my professional clinical counseling license, I was working in middle school and high school students, and a lot of them had academic issues. And to try and help them understand, I said, what's your least favorite subject? A lot of them said math. Also was my least favorite subject. And I said, what if on your next test you got a 97? How would you feel? Oh my gosh, I'd be so excited. I'd be so happy. I'd tell my parents, I'd be so proud. I'd tell her, I go, would you complain about the 3 points you didn't get? Are you kidding? I got a 97. I mean, that would be incredible. So why are we ignoring the 97% of our day that's going well and focusing on the 3% that isn't going well? Oh, I hit traffic. My car got a scratch. Hello, we woke up this morning. We had the opportunity to do it. There's so many things that are going well, and yet we ignore all of that and just focus on sort of that limiting negative belief. And I'm like, no, balance that off with looking at all this positive, because it so outweighs it.
Absolutely.
To further take it, I like baseball. Okay, I'm not a huge fan, but I like it. People make it into the Hall of Fame with a lifetime batting average of like over 300, right? Mm-hmm. Imagine if you and I are working for 9 hours and you only have to get 3 hours of your day in your business right for it to be a Hall of Fame day. I don't know about you, that's a pretty low bar.
I'll take that every day of the week.
Yeah, no doubt. How was it? I had a Hall of Fame day. I did 3 hours of work. I sat there for 9 hours, but 3 hours and it was a great day.
Yep.
So yeah, no, I mean, I love sharing that because I think it helps people change that perspective that they're having on everything. Sure, it's easy to go, oh, this didn't go right, but also remember, look at all the stuff that is going right.
Mhm. 100%. And self-awareness is key, I think. As long as you are purposely counting your victories throughout the day. For me, I like journaling. I like writing all my victories down just so I'm becoming more self-aware and being more focused on the things that went right versus the things that went wrong.
Yeah, yeah, and again, writing it down is always a good thing because there's more not just thinking about it, but you're actually physically doing
Yeah.
something that then allows you to come back and remind yourself when you start to have the negative thoughts, go, wait, hold on, let me go look at my victories. Because who
Mhm.
doesn't like to say, how am I successful?
100%. I couldn't have said it better, Xander.
Well, that's great. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your awesome wisdom and your great story. It's so exciting.
Thank
And
you so much for having me.
of course, and I want to remind everyone that epic choices lead to the epic life that you want to live.
Get your gift copy of the award-winning book Epic Begins with One Step Forward at epicbegins.com. That's a wrap on this episode of Epic Begins with One Step Forward with your host, Xander Sprague, best-selling author, internationally acclaimed public speaker, and licensed professional clinical counselor. To make your next conference or event epic, send an email to Xander at zander@epicbegins.com. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Remember, epic choices, epic life.